Okay, so sometime in 1947 and 1948, right before the 1950s, there were a bunch of UFO related incidents, unidentified flying objects. There were two crashes that we there's a couple more that are on the record and stuff but two very interesting crashes in particular: the Aztec, New Mexico UFO crash and the Roswell RAAF Roswell Army Airfield crash that happened in Corona. There were two crash sites, actually. One was on this guy Mac Razzle's branch. He was a sheep farmer, reported this material that was a memory foil. It could be crinkled up into a ball, and when he set it down, it would unfold itself mirror smooth again. National Security Act happens just a few months later after Roswell, and basically starts the whole, national security establishment, the NSA, and a whole bunch of the predecessors of the military industrial complex that we kind of have today. This Majestic 12, some people say this is a document that leaked in the 1980s. Whether the Majestic 12 documents are legitimate or not is a question that's been debated among conspiracy theorists quite a bit. But it really doesn't matter, because we know that the government has plans just like this. They have documents. They have an organization that's there in the event of alien contact or retrieval or any kind of thing extraterrestrial. We know that they would have, we've read the documents. There was actually, I remember a Scientific American, actually it was Popular Science. Was it Popular Science? Popular Science magazine, UFO crash retrieval. There was a whole bunch of, there was an article about crash retrievals. I remember reading it in Popular Mechanics. Yeah, Popular Mechanics it was in. And there was this whole article about crash retrievals, and it talked about, that the military and the government would have some kind of organization, very similar, whether it's called Majestic 12 and whether it was these people or not, is a huge debate still in ufology. But it doesn't matter, because there would be a organization like this, and now the question begs is, if they found anything and captured anything, would they tell the public? And if we all know the answer to that is no. Of course, they wouldn't tell the public. The Robertson panel, and also this new, what's the new thing that I had just come across some new stuff. We'll get into here in a bit. It was the Robertson panel, and there was another new one. But anyways, I want to talk about that later. We'll get into that. But they basically did a study on, the American psyche, and they decided that no, the people couldn't be told. It's the American, the people aren't psychologically ready. And I've come to realize that more and more. Just people don't, they're not really, regular people aren't ready to equipped to deal with this kind of reality if this was the real deal. And doing a lot of research into the science and the technology and these supposed reverse engineering programs and the SAPs, really trying to put the whole piece of the puzzle together and understand it from a historical and as well as a scientific perspective. Like, did we really recover fucking extraterrestrial technology? And this is a question I've so many things tell me yes, but still no smoking gun. I'm still 50-50. There's it's still like, yes, it could explain so much, but still, like, there's no, like, hard smoking gun evidence. So I do want to point out. All right, so I came across this recently. Very interesting stuff. Someone posted this picture on Twitter the other day of this material, and I wish I could get a real close look at it. But it looks very much like the wallpaper material that Peter Merlin recovered this wallpaper material from a crash site of the U-2, one of the U-2s. They would wrap it in this really heavy and dense coating, which was a metamaterial, which would make it invisible to Soviet radar frequencies. And this is what it looked like. This cardboard, this thick layer of cardboard with this grid painted on the top with this metallic kind of paint that would affect the radio waves in a way because of the structure of the grid and the size of the spacing on the grid. It would be invisible to these frequencies or create a null response when shined to it. So this was the first predecessors of a lot of the old school cloaking technologies that were developed. What better way to keep that a secret and to cover it up than to tell people that it's alien technology? But here has been my whole mission is understanding what the real technologies are, what we're looking at when I look at stuff like this, and although it is interesting that this material is flexible, it's very curious as to what this material is made of and what its function was. But again, it looks to be man-made. But the whole idea is that even if it's not man-made, if it's alien, what we're trying to do is figure out the technology on the level that where disclosure won't matter anymore. So say that all this is true. Say that that we did recover UFOs from these crash sites, right? Let's just say that we recovered UFOs at Roswell in 1947, and Aztec, and that there's been other crashes of say drones from interstellar drones or what have you, some kind of craft that we've recovered. What are the things that we'd look for? Now, some of the stuff that I'm finding is who are the scientists that would have been called in for this whole process to kind of understand how this works. And they would have taken whales. They would have taken, these people that were just giants in their field, and they would have kind of recruited them as consultants, but not told them everything. They would have had a team of physicists, preferably like just early grad students who were groomed from a young age and recruited into these kind of programs. And I'll talk to you about the three corporations that we've narrowed it down to kind of through the research. I don't want to. No, I don't know how much we should talk about, man, because there's so many people working on this right now. I'm not the only one. This information, I think, is very close to coming out and being unraveled. 2 years ago, I was talking about this John Archibald Wheeler guy, and he is the whale. If you're a whale hunter looking for these, big sources of intelligence and information, this guy would be the fucking guy to go to. He wrote papers with Einstein. He wrote papers on quantum gravity, some of the earliest papers on quantum gravity, going back to the 1930s. And he wrote papers, he worked on this grand unified field theory and unifying relativity with quantum mechanics. He was really one of the best scientists of his era and really at the top of his game. And according to his FBI file, which I have published here in the links, he had 3 top secret security clearances simultaneously and was involved with all kinds of other physicists and projects, from the RAND Corporation to Battelle. And I haven't found anything really connecting him to EG&G yet. That would be, like, I think, too much of a smoking gun, because I really feel like he was this really smart theoretician, but brought in as kind of an outsider, while talking to these other physicists to kind of give them, they had these other physicists with more insight and direct hands-on the project, but they would ask a guy like Wheeler just the right questions and to get whatever they could out of him, and for these defense purposes and these defense studies. But it's very interesting theory that we're developing, or that we're looking at here, that basically these organizations like this BMI here in Ohio, this organization headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. Look at this part under the Wikipedia page under National Laboratory Management. So they manage or co-manage on behalf of the United States Department of Energy. The people that you read all the the early Gray Barker stuff on the Men in Black, and they knew too much about flying saucers and all this. All those Men in Black guys were from the Department of Energy. That they were DOE. That was basically the agents of the DOE were the Men in Black. And it's just amazing that they manage, and on behalf of the DOE, the Men in Black, they manage all the national laboratories and all the biggest ones in the entire country: Brookhaven, Idaho National Labs, Lawrence Livermore National Labs, Los Alamos National Laboratory, Oak Ridge, Pacific Northwest, and National Renewable Energy Laboratories. So all the renewable energy, all the sustainable energy, all like the green energy, and like this is like controlling free energy. No corporation's ever going to let free energy fucking become a thing. Let's just face it, they would all just be like bankrupted and lose so much stock and employees. It's no one in none of these rich billionaires and any of these people's best interests, right? And I don't know, man. It's kind of where I'm at with all the shit that's going on in the world. It's like fucking checkmate to these guys. It's like your time's over, man. Like let's just and they're just not giving up without a fight, even though that this all this stuff going on right now with Epstein and the news media. Nobody trusts the news anymore. Um, Everybody knows that they're being lied to, that there's more shit going on. And nobody has like a real sense of the scope of just how fucked up and bad it really is, because it's gotten so way out of control for so long. I mean, just think if we really did a couple small group of guys, say like 12 dudes, really did have access to all this fucking technology back in 47. Say that they really did, and they formed all these institutes to preside over all the research that was done, and I've heard stories about anyone getting close to this stuff, they get redirected, they get their funding cut, and they get pushed on to other research, and that's kind of like how it happens. And what could be the hidden hand kind of guiding that kind of process that's going on in these industries, and we now have that. It's these institutes, which were set up and there from the beginning, in the get-go. Battelle was they were big on industrial metals and metallurgy, material science and metals. That was their original focus, was contract research and development work in the areas of metals and material science. And that's part of a big part of what Archibald Wheeler was doing. The consulting work for Battelle at the time was on metallurgy and different types of metals, and very interesting stuff. What was the other thing we found? So the Maxwell, I mentioned Epstein and all that stuff going on. I learned this about Isabel Maxwell. She's a French-born entrepreneur and co-founder of Magellan, and Maxwell's a technology pioneer of the World Economic Forum and the president of Cromtouch. So very interesting who her father was. So her father was this guy Robert Maxwell, and he's a suspected spy and fraudster, but he was connected with these technology firms, which are some of the guys we'd almost expect to have some links to this. And there was a another link I wanted people to check out, and I'm not seeing it right now. It might have been just her technology company. So Isabel Maxwell, her twin sister with Ghislaine's twin sister, but she's basically a technologist, and she's done all this stuff with some really interesting, technology companies that are tied to a lot of really interesting, intelligence work and stuff. But and some of it, I believe there was some of it that was something to do with this anti-gravity connection, and it went back. And I'm not seeing this now. Hold on a second here. He did some work for. I'm not finding it, but I'll go back to it. And if anyone knows, they could, because someone pointed this out earlier, and I didn't do enough research on it before the show, and I'm kind of wanted to point that out because we were on it. But let's talk about this database and the data dump that we kind of put together. So I I I felt like we were being watched and that shit was going down, so I wanted to kind of post that out just to get a bunch of people to back it up and download it. And so we did, and that was successful. Although a couple people pointed out some of the things that I had shown on screen that were files in my private lot. Some of the copyrighted material, which I said, that was there because it was unsorted and unfiltered. I've spent a lot of the time going through this folder and sorting that information. I'm putting it in now into all these great folders and archives that we've that Sean and and Jeremiah have put together for us. Um, but there was some stuff in that folder that was it was actually connected to my 9/11 research. And that's kind of a lot of that kind of stuff has gotten my channel really shadow banned and really looked at by these people who should be investigating, and people like Dick Cheney, and arresting people like Donald Rumsfeld, who served on the disaster scenario planning think tanks, and whose job for nearly a decade was basically to think up scenarios like 9/11 and plan exactly what needed to be done in every single event. Um, you know, Instead of arresting and pointing the finger at people like that, they'll point the finger at people like me for having research materials like we're showing in that video. I've since taken the video down, and I've taken those files down because other people have pointed out it's really not our intent and any intent here to share information that could be used for ill will or for harming people. It's mostly to keep people safe. In fact, there's that whole thing with the 5G research that I did where we found that ICNIRP manual, which was basically the cookbook for all the bad frequencies, non-ion, and there's another folder in there for all the Russian technology on it too. I have a couple different files in there on this. It basically tells you all the bad frequencies and what to watch out for and what they do. And it's there for a safety guide. It's not there for people to say, "Oh, hey, let me build something so I can, use these bad frequencies to go and fuck with people or do bad things." We've strongly discouraged that sort of thing. But it's really important. It's like this is a double-edged sword with a lot of this stuff, which is why the information is so suppressed and doesn't get out there. And why we're treading on such thin ice with some of this stuff sometimes. But we did have that. I did have that those a couple manuals in there that were copyrighted. They've been removed, and I just want people to know that that those were for my 9/11 research, because there were arguments that nanothermite and thermite couldn't be used as a demolition explosive, or that it couldn't be used to take buildings down. And part of my proof for it was finding, three those manuals, which all mention it as being used in those three-letter agencies manuals, which have since been deleted and taken down. And I don't want to go there, and I've taken the video down where I even show them and talk on screen. I just show the covers of them. I don't go into any detail on them. And I've just taken screenshots out of them for some of the other 9/11 research that I did 10 years ago in the past. But really, honestly, if I have a family and I don't want to get put myself and or my family in any jeopardy by publishing, stuff like that or putting it out there for publish, because they could accuse me of, encouraging terrorism or something like that. And that's not the intent with any of this. Is not to, we're not going to win this war by using these weapons to, for those things, and using this knowledge to build weapons and use, that's not what we need to use this knowledge for. We need to use our knowledge to build free energy and to build things to destroy the corporate infrastructure itself. Because if you just take out the players, they'll simply be fucking replaced. Let's just be honest. Like, nobody gives a shit about you or me, or the guy fucking doing his job who thinks that I'm the bad guy because his boss told him to, and he's now investigating me. All right. I understand, who pays your fucking bills at the end of the day, and it's these assholes. All right, we get that. All right, uh, I know that they've told you that I'm the bad guy, but I'm doing this for the sake of humanity, because we are going to die on this fucking rock, and we're gonna get hit by an asteroid, or we're just gonna kill ourselves, or we're gonna, this. I won't even go through any number of enormous scenarios, even things that are taking place right now that are virtually irreversible, like global warming and methane hydrates. And if you don't know what methane hydrates are, and what happens when the polar ice caps, methane clathrate. If you don't know what methane clathrate is, and all this, see, I don't even know. It's methane hydrate. It's also called that. So it's not that I don't know what it is. It's just called a different thing. But anyways, methane hydrates. If you don't know what this is and what's going to happen with friggin' runaway global warming, and you're still one of those people that doesn't believe in global warming or thinks it's a hoax, I got some bad fucking news for you, dude. We need free energy, and we need, ways to reverse this technology and put stuff into space to cool the planet, and all the idiots thinking that fucking we got chemtrails that are being sprayed on us, and these geoengineering programs where they control the fucking weather. You guys are idiots too. We need technologies in space to be able to control and at least, not manipulate the weather, and so to say. I think that's it's such a complex and hard and chaotic thing to model. Never mind control. I don't think we'll ever get to that level, but we need more of a step toward a full what the definition of type 1 is on the Kardashev scale. Realistically, that's what we should strive for, except minus the New World Order, one world government part. I don't agree with that whole thing. I think that's like the downfall of that, and that's where we're going to be. That's the great filter, essentially, is what we're facing right now. Is how do we transition society to, on the Kardashev scale, to type 1, because we're type 0 right now. We're right at that cusp in the next 2020, man. 2100's 80 years away. The kid, my son that's born now, he'll be 80 years old in 2100. I need to make sure that, we make this jump to type 1, so before fucking he dies. I'm going to teach my kids the best way I can so that we can, help this planet make the jump. That is what we're here for. That is the goal. Because there's a great filter out there. There's definitely a lack of, according to SETI, depending on who you talk to, there's a lack of other alien. There's definitely not aliens coming down and talking to us, and I think the reason they don't talk to us is similar to the Prime Directive in Star Trek. That dude Gene Roddenberry was getting some serious downloads when he had wrote and directed Star Trek. But the Prime Directive is very helpful for understanding. We need to make the jump we need to crack gravity, understand what gravity is, and build starships before they'll come down and talk to us. And the people, I don't know. That's really what I feel like. We're not alone. That's the answer to the Fermi paradox and the great filter question. is that they just don't show themselves to us. And it isn't that big of a jump from nuclear technology, which was less than 100 years ago, to what we're about to experience here in the next 10 to 20 years, if we're lucky. Um, so the history of anti-gravity research, people are familiar with this Hover Brothers thing we put together. We're working on this kind of this method. This goal is to like basically collaborate and collect all the files in one massive archive. And so we've really narrowed it down to stuff that's related to warp drive, anti-gravity, understanding gravity, theories of gravity, the mathematics involved, and all the different types of gravitational theories and stuff. And yeah, and how to basically just a master a folder of a combined a bunch of the whales in the group, but we're basically trying to create a beacon of light for all the like-minded engineers and physicists and scientists. That's what this channel has been all along. And I'd hate to think that we have to get rid of this channel and move on, but it might be time because of all the other research and other stuff that I've done on my journey to get where we are today. All the 9/11 stuff, all the different conspiracy stuff that I delved into just to try to understand the world a little bit better. That stuff's gotten me blacklisted heavily. You see that, it's not it. The real conspiracies will never become mainstream. And as much as they try to really sugarcoat disclosure and put this reframing and reframed picture on it, I really feel that like TTSA and those kind of people are just a effort by the military-industrial complex to lighten this, to prepare the public for it in a way that they'll be able to cope with it, and the guilty people that are criminal in this won't get exposed or prosecuted in the ways that they should. But just to think about that, this research into quantum gravity goes back. Um, I really got to start reading these. I got to talk to some of these people and read some of these papers, because I really like to know if if he was on it back in the day. Was he really on to it back in the day? He seems to be writing about quantum gravity and all the right things years before any of these other people. What was the other thing we found that I wanted to show? He had those Bright Wheeler, yeah, the Bright Wheeler process. So one of the things that Wheeler was talking about was when you got to really high energies of photons, and or if you shook the vacuum at really high energies, if you create really strong nonlinearities, and in fact the creation of particle-antiparticle pairs. Um, and this process is very much related to how I think these craft produce anti-gravity or warp bubbles. That glowing ball of light that can be seen around a lot of these craft, these glowing orbs and the orbs which are so commonly witnessed and reported, as well as the craft that just disappear and you can't see them at all. Except with quantum radar and other technologies like that. But the fact is that when you get to these really high energies in this gamma range, that you get these really strong nonlinearities in the vacuum energy density, and it's a breaking of the symmetry, it's a breaking of the CPT violations, and all this other stuff, which is why I think it's almost sad to think that physics was pushed towards CPT symmetry and all these other theories for so long, that were just pushed it down these wrong paths that maybe it was pushed on purpose almost. But again, I really have not dug into this as deeply as I should before I can conclude that. But it's certainly surprising that the top secret clearances that these people had, the links to the metallurgical um, companies that were looking into the metallurgy and the material science, which would have been the exact type of people interested in flying saucer and material debris. So again, trying to find the real people and the real scientists involved is going to be a little bit difficult, but it's definitely should be our goal here. But I just want to see what people think. What do you guys think about making like either making a new channel or me trying to find another channel that will join with them as so I would love to find another channel that makes videos that would just like me to write scripts for them and work on script writing and links and all that stuff, because I don't know, I'm trying to I try and I try, but hey, here I am. I got 113 viewers. I have 92,000 subscribers, and I swear that YouTube's shadow banned almost all of them into obscurity. Anyone that hasn't followed me for like a month gets like dropped into a list, and anyone that doesn't, I feel like they can only like they can hide it from everyone but the people that, routinely and constantly look for me and check up on me. And then I think that like once people do that, then they're like, all right, well, we can't hide it then because it'll be obvious. There's got to be something going on in these filters, man. Because how do I have 92,000 subscribers and I only have 114 people watching this, and like maximum like maybe 1,000 views at the at the end of a week? It's crazy, and I'm doing these, things that should be getting crazy attention, but I feel like they're not getting any attention and stuff. But I don't know. I just hope that if there are agents assigned to me and watching me, that they know like I'm not the bad guy, dude. The people you're working for are like so much worse, dude. They blew up fucking their own buildings and blamed it on, another country in order to start an excuse for war. They wrote documents like Operation Northwoods. I mean, these people are psychopaths. All right. And like when I read comments like, "Oh, we shouldn't disclose," and the technology is the most dangerous part, and like what all these different things I hear about it, like, oh, Kim Jong Un in North Korea is gonna get this UFO technology, and they're gonna use it against us, and that like I'm like this, I'm doing the wrong thing by pushing the technology disclosure, because it's gonna fuck up the whole world and the wrong people are gonna get it. And I just want to point out, dude, like the world has to come up in order for any of us to get this. No one's going to get this ahead of anyone else. I don't think that any country on fucking earth has this currently, because it's going to take an effort of all the countries on earth really coming together and working together for a period of about 20 years before we'll even get close to freaking having this like some of the technology. That's my personal belief, that we're close, but we're so far away on the manufacturing level and also the theoretical and the infrastructure level. And one of the points I have in defense of that is I just want to talk about North Korea's Air Force, right? So let's look at North Korea's Air Force. All right. There's North Korea's Air Force. Here's some pictures. Those are Russian MiGs, dude. Those were not made in North Korea. So if North Korea is buying their MiGs from Russia because it's economically cheaper for them to friggin' do so, their barrier to entry is to build fucking Tic Tacs and these type of craft, TR-3Bs and shit. They're just think about it, man. Like they're still buying their Air Force. They don't making their own planes. You know what I mean? Anyways, this is my point: is that North Korea still buys their planes from fucking Russia. Even if when we have this technology, they're gonna have to buy it from us in order to have it. It's the this is no low hanging fruit, man. Um, I hate all the people that think this is easy or they just believe any old bullshit they hear. They have no filter. This is not a low-hanging fruit, man. This is not an easy puzzle. If it was, I believe someone would have figured it out a little bit longer ago. As like we said, these guys were working on it. This is how I found some of this stuff, was doing some of the we were searching the patent archive. We were searching through the patent databases for anything related to these mercury and spinning mercury, and we found these 1968 patents um, by a guy named Henry William Wallace talking about spinning mercury, these two counter-rotating drums, and it talked about some of the theory and the physics behind it. And the guy that they referenced was this DeWitt guy, and DeWitt is he's started all this quantum gravity stuff. So it got me into researching a lot of this stuff more. I can't wait to read a lot more of you know, Ross's research. What's hard is all these papers that it references and these patents and all this stuff. I can't find this stuff, and I'm having trouble tracking it down. And it's like you go to these libraries and stuff, and it's missing. The catalog's there, and then this page is missing. It's like someone went and cut it all out and like just erased it from the history books, and it was just like, nope, this. And that's really fucking promising. It's like the memory hole, dude. When you start seeing stuff like this and people that fell down the memory hole, I don't know. I really think that, I'm on to something here with this investigation. The citations per year just keep going up on these papers. More people are finding them and referencing this research in their work, their current work on quantum gravity and this stuff. Which makes me really wonder, did these guys, these guys were so fucking close back then, and then it just fell off and it went nowhere. You know what I mean? They had this, they were writing papers and doing all this research, and then like they were right on the edge of it. There should have been a breakthrough, but it never happened, and then there's a black hole here, and it disappears, and we see we see a dead zone, and then all this push towards string theory and the Large Hadron Collider and these, Yang Mills theory and all that, you know. But again, I feel like we were okay, so anti-gravity is a matter of photon resonance due to high energy spin rate brought on by 7 instabilities that come together in a stable gravity field. So here's what I think it is, right? So this is what I've kind of figured out by going through the theory that these guys were on to. I really need to dig deep into these papers and stuff a little more. But it's essentially this quantum gravity idea is that, when you start to learn about quantum gravity, one of the professors, I guess Sasha Migdal, told Ken Griggs that, oh, so you come to learn about chunky space. And very interesting that I think this is the same guy, Sasha Migdal. Yeah, it is. This was Ken Griggs's advisor, and Alexander Migdal. Chunky space. One of the consequences of chunky space is that gravity falls right out of it. If it comes right out, well, it can come right out if you have the right equations to model it. But one of the best theories I've heard for this is this whole theory of shot noise. Shot noise is a process. It can be modeled by this Poisson process. Okay, so that might give us some clues to how to model gravity or quantum gravity. In electronics, shot noise originates from the discrete nature of electric charge. So when they take a picture of something, because electric charges only come in discrete chunks of Q, the fundamental electric charge is defined by Coulomb. Shot noise also occur, because it comes in these chunky points, that there's this shot noise, or this loss of data. There's a little bit of data, and it also occurs in photons and photon counting. Individual devices that count photon by photon, um, and it's but in this case of optical devices and photons, it's associated with the particle nature of light and this wave. So this wave particle duality has a little bit to do with it, but the particle nature of light kind of shows us that gravity's kind of hidden in the particle nature of light rather than the wave nature, and it's because it's particular, it's chunky. When you have chunky space, you can have it's kind of like this error correction code. A good way to think of it. That's one way that some of these scientists had thought of it. Whereas is gravity and error correction code, right? How space and time could be a quantum error correcting code. Yeah, this is a cool article. So I'll share that with people. So it's kind of like the whole idea is that in this model, it's a little bit different the way that gravitational lensing works, for example. So gravitational lensing, right? In the Einstein's theory, this gravitational lensing it occurs as a function of like the tensor, the whatever the space-time metric tensor bending the fabric of space-time itself, which thus alters the light, the way that light travels through that area. But one other way to think of it is that this chunky space of light and this shot noise kind of effect around massive objects lowers or changes the refractive index of the space-time of actual empty space around it, and the refractive index change by this chunk, the cause of the refractive index change in the discrete nature of space is what causes the lensing in quantum gravity versus the tensor version. So I like the chunky space version. The math is much easier to understand. I did get I did want to take some time to learn some of the tensor stuff. There's another physicist that I've reached out to recently. He'd done some really good work um, before, um, and he had just sent me some tensor stuff, and I got to go check that out and download that software and play around with that a little bit and see if there's some way to connect this chunky space view of things to the tensor-based view of things. But anyways, this is cool. The debris stuff. I think Battelle's going to be the place you want to look. Battelle's going to have the physicists. They're going to have the people that knew the stuff, that worked on it. I'd ordered a copy of one of Ken Ford's. Ken Ford wrote an autobiography with Ken Wheeler. So Ken Wheeler wrote his autobiography. I gotta find that again. And this guy Ken Ford wrote the foreword to it. I can't find it right now, but this guy Ken Ford wrote the foreword to it. He's got this really good site for learning. This is what I kind of wanted to put together with the education section on my website. But this guy has done even better, man. If you guys, anyone wants to learn physics or teach their kids physics or anything, this is like a great website to start with and to do. He's got some really good stuff on here. So read these essays, and they'll give you a much really good understanding of a lot of these concepts and stuff. So yeah, check this out. He's got a lot of good stuff on here that'll teach you, all these essays. You read through all these, and you'll understand a lot about just the basics of physics. What else did I want to say? Yeah, that we're all looking for answers, man, and we deserve the truth. I think people are ready for it. I'm fairly confident people can handle it, but what I can't handle is all the bullshit and liars and just nonsense out there, man. I want real answers and real information and real science, and we're gonna keep digging into Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Dewitt, and their Wheeler-DeWitt equation, and all the interesting stuff we're finding around them and these Rand Corporation and Battelle scientists. So yeah, man, check that out, and I'm getting ready to go to bed here soon. I'm tired. Someone called me at 4:30 this morning and woke me up. That's when I did that live stream this morning. I was kind of tired and not really ready for it. And also a little burnt out because I went to the beach the day before. So the sun kind of fried me. There was some guy who was like concerned about me. I'm like, dude, it's 4:30 in the morning, and some asshole woke me out of a sound sleep. And once I wake up, I cannot go back to bed. I'm like, unless I'm real tired like I am now, like I'll fall asleep and I'm out. But once I wake up, it's like I'm like up and I can't go back. Especially at 4:30 in the morning. If I wake up at 4:30, I'm up. Or any later than that, I'm up. And that's just how I run, man. Yeah, I guess so. We just have to keep investigating and questioning everything. And the coolest thing too is that just the world is such a crazy place, man. It's like whatever you put out there is like what will appear for you. It's like, I don't know. It's the way the wave function works on so many different levels is crazy. And the fact that these guys figured out, that if you apply this wave function to the entire universe, you get, this kind of really interesting structures, and it looks a lot cooler than string theory, and is for a lot more promising than string theory as for a possible model of how the universe is fit together. Um, Again, there's this Cloud Poher guy and his universons. Should check out. There's the squeezed light stuff, the 30 years of squeezed light history and squeezed light generation. This is another key paper. The squeezed light stuff is key because these condensed, um, these squeezed, states of light are basically the squeezed vacuum state is this quieting of the vacuum noise in certain parts and of really strong nonlinearities in these other points. So I think that this is a key, combined with the Dirac hole stuff, which someone turned me on to years ago, and this bright Wheeler process. If we get these photons trapped and you get them oscillating high enough energies, you can create these strong nonlinearities, which literally through the process of this squeezing and reducing the shot noise in these areas. They warp the space time. They literally change the speed of light locally, which is what you were looking for in that whole Hal Puthoff paper on the polarized vacuum approach to general relativity, and all the stuff that went on with Lockheed Martin and their research into warp drives and stuff with Bernard Hayes and Alfonso Rueda and some of these other guys, and also Todd Desiato, who was in that documentary with those guys from 2005 that he showed clips of, but it never went public. But yeah, I need to sleep, man. Guys, there is some really cool stuff out there, and just know that, I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want anyone out here who follows my channel to hurt anyone. And some of those books that we mentioned in the stream this morning and that were on there they're gone now. They're deleted, and it was never my intention to share that information for ill purposes. It was kind of just stuff that was in my archive that got included in that unsorted dump. And now that we're sorting things and going through it and putting in all the folders, we're really getting the information narrowed down to the key goal here and the key quest, which is, again, save humanity from imminent destruction of the entire species. That's what we want to do. We want to get off this planet. We want to become type 1. We want to become sustainable. We want to become sufficient. We don't want all the methane hydrates and methane clathrates that are sitting frozen under the ice caps to suddenly, go into our atmosphere, because that would be really fucking bad. Really fucking bad for all of us if that happened. And I hate to be this fear monger and selling people on fear, but I'm more scared of that than I am of the friggin' COVID-19 or any of this other stuff, to be honest with you. We have a lot more, we have so much more things that are going to kill us and that will kill us. You know what I mean? It's sad. But anyways, here's the Britannica article on Archibald Wheeler. Got some cool stuff in here along with some of the books that he's written. I just ordered this one. Can't wait to read it. Hopefully there's some good stuff in there, man. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to change the channel, maybe make a new channel, because I feel like the 9/11 stuff has blacklisted me and destroyed my ability to reach larger audiences with the material, because they know they don't want the disclosure material to, this stuff is going to be huge. It's way bigger, and the UFO stuff and the alien stuff's way bigger than 9/11 or these other conspiracies that I've covered, and so it's just, when that comes out, they don't want the other shit to come out and them to be looking bad. And when the stuff does come out, they want the Pentagon and all the military industrial contractors who hit it and profited off it and fucked people and killed people for decades. They want all that shit to disappear and get swept under the rug. And I don't want that to happen. I think that those people, should be investigated. If there were murders that were sanctioned by the military to, or the government to, to keep this stuff a secret in the past, I think that information, it's only fair that information gets exposed and those people get exposed, because they're guilty. And if you're one of those people and you're watching me right now, then you should really reconsider your actions and your position as a human being on this planet and what you're doing with your life. So, well, that's all I really have to say is that, you could be the difference between mankind, dying and mankind surviving. And I wouldn't put our future and our fate in the hands of these people, and the bankers and the money, the money. Because money's just ruined everything. We'd be so much further along if it weren't for the greedy assholes at the top trying to protect their interests. That is really the biggest fucking problem with all this, and that's what's caused so much problems. It's caused so much greed and so much corruption and so much horrible things happened with the people who had all that money and concentrated it amongst them, and the people who concentrated that money are some of the most evil, despicable human beings on the entire planet. And they should all be, erased. They should all be erased and replaced with positive energy and with light and love and messages of, healing. The human race has been through a lot, man, and we've got a lot more to go. There's so much more we have to learn about ourselves and each other. I really hope that we can do this, man, and we don't kill kill ourselves off, because it just scares me to think about sometimes. All I can do is just, you know, try to pass on the best information and to people as I can, and show them where to get it and how to be smart and who to listen to. It's like I've learned. I was talking about this with one of the other members of the group earlier about the three types of people that you meet, and the three types of people you need to watch out for and stay the fuck away from. All right. I just want to say that the first type of people are the people that are just about putting information out there. They don't care the validity of it. They just are in it for the shock value, and they don't have any filter, and they're just, the information seekers who can't sort the bullshit out. They can't, and they can't tell. And if you try to tell them, you can try to convince them that something's bullshit and show them the evidence that they'll fight you just for the sake of fighting you, because they want to be right and popular and maintain their image, rather than the people that won't genuinely just want to understand and learn and gain access to better information and insights. The second type of person you have to worry about is the egotist, the narcissist that wants to, essentially hijack your disclosure, or take all the credit, or become the center of the fame, or the person that wants to, that's in it for the fame and the glory and the credit. And the people that often, like, they'll take credit for your work and won't give it to other people, or they try to start, like, a disclosure messiah within your group, and promote themselves as a messiah, and get you to try to think of them as the messiah, or a person that should be viewed as a messiah, or be given the rights to all the information, and used as a conduit or a vehicle to get all the information out. The other type of person that I really like to avoid, and so ego, the the people that don't have the good take on the information, and the third type of people are just the people that are in it for the money. Anyone who talks about monetizing information that is publicly available, or should be public, or monetizing anything off it, or profiting off it, or making the money. Anyone that talks about that are also people that I just reject them, and don't. Those are the three people I just stay away from in this field. And I don't. I look for people that are looking for answers, looking for deeper understandings, and just really trying to learn more, and learn as much as possible, and people who are not, like, because I made the mistake too of being a little too full of myself, because I know so much more than the average person. It makes me, like, kind of like give this chip on my shoulder that I'm, this. But then you meet somebody else who, like, knows way more than you, or you find out some stuff that you, like, really didn't know as much as you thought you did, and that's a humbling situation. So you got to watch out for that. But money is another thing. Is the people that are trying to capitalize off it and make money off it. I don't do this for money. I do this for the love of learning, and the education, and the love of the debate and the controversy that surrounds all of it. Because you start talking about cold fusion, and you say that all these top scientists lied to cover it up because it threatened the energy industry. It gets a lot of people fucking mad, dude. And that's good, because they should be mad, because it's true. These guys didn't sacrifice their careers for a lie. They really are observing excess heat. There's a lot of people that have confirmed it in the years since, and also confirmed, tritium and other byproducts of fusion to prove that there's actual fusion going on in these experiments. They try, and because they can't explain it, they just reject it, man. That they just reject it completely, because, well, we can't explain it. We're just going to throw this out and call it pseudoscience, and it's been blacklisted and all this other stuff. So that's really what we're fighting against, and fighting for a better education for the future, to really understand these scientists and their work, on a deeper level. And yeah, check out this too. Maybe I'll share this. Fuck it. Check this out too. So I got a whole bunch of papers with DeWitt, and you can see some of the guys that he worked with too, including some. And not all of these I have access to, so I'm going to have to go and download some of these and get them and add them to the archive. But let's talk. I just want to wrap up and talk a little bit more about this archive, because it's word's kind of getting out there on it. That's good. We may have jumped the gun a little bit, but I also think that we're like more protected now, as long as there's not anything that's risque or dangerous in the video, in the files or the archives. I don't think we have anything to worry about. And the fact that this database is really, is coming together for these educational and research purposes. I really hope that there aren't organizations out there that perceive this as a threat, or perceive this as, in any way that they should feel threatened by it, because they shouldn't. North Korea has a long way to go. China and all these other industries have a long way to go, including ourselves. We have a long way to go before we'll be able to actually create the materials required to build any of this technology, as far as I'm aware. I could be wrong. There could be some other research out there that's been hidden from us that's, oh, well, we figured out how to do this stuff and with Teflon back in the 50s, So, who knows, man? We'll see. If it exists, it will come out, man. That's all I have to say, is we're just got to keep digging. And this is what I call forced disclosure. It's you start digging in the right areas and putting the information out there, it forces the disclosure to come out, because they can no longer keep it a secret, because it's already coming out on its own. But yeah, there's so much more to this. There's so much more, and you're not going to find a paper trail on any of it. Now, I don't think, unless we really got to start. The FOIA and the government document people really need to start. Whoever pulled this John Archibald Wheeler FBI file, fucking bravo, that was awesome. I know Sean Richter sent me the link to it. Whoever got this and posted it, man, like, thank you. You are a savior. And if we can get DeWitt's and some of these other guys' files, we're gonna really be coming along with this research here in the next in the next year or two. I really feel like we're gonna unravel this whole friggin' mystery and get down to the real scientists. And that would be awesome, man, because this stuff needs to come out. It's been way too long. This was like almost 100 years ago. It's old news, and it needs to be. If there's any truth to it, it needs to be shown. Yeah, and we're looking for more people that have files and more information. If you got documents and other stuff, anything you've been researching, if you've been researching this and you have tons of files on it, man, that would be awesome to find someone who's like, oh, dude, I already have all this shit on this. Let me share it with you. Here's a link to my Google Drive in your email, or whatever you want to do. Get a hold of me, man. Get this information up and get it out there, because I want to compile all of this and put it in one place and make it searchable, and also continue these videos where I can, we continue to pick this apart. I post it on Twitter. We get our team on there, and I post it in my other research group on here, where we get these guys to go out and do experiments, and build some of these things in a laboratory setting, and test them out, man. Because that's the real science. Is, if it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong, and that's all there is to it. So someone figured this out before. They left a record of it. We have that record somewhere in the archives somewhere, and we're going to eventually find it and stumble across it, man. Look, Secure Team 10 needs to get on this and get his friggin' audience. He's got a huge audience. He needs to get out. He's done so much. He's created that audience through a lot of hoaxes and a lot of disinformation, which is sad. But I think Tyler's heart's in the right spot, even if his mind, and he's not the smartest kid out there. He's definitely below average intelligence, I would say. But that's nothing to say to anything bad about his character or his heart. The kid's got heart, and he wants disclosure. He's just not a real brilliant kind of person to bring it out, and that's a reflection on his audience too. That he's got the massive audience, but they're also not on a level to really, almost wouldn't want him to do a video on this, because it would invite too many people that don't know shit that would just get in the way. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, bring me the experts, and who are expert on this kind of stuff, and those are the only people that I want to talk to, are the experts. And if you're not an expert, then you don't belong at the table, pretty much. And we're looking for people that, if you want to correct me, and you can correct me on stuff, and you know more about this stuff than I do. You're going to be the person that I want to bring you on for a show, and you're going to be the people that I want to talk to, and have on my show, and have on my program, or go on your show. And that's where I'm at, man. I'm looking to surround myself with people who are smarter and know more than me, and are better at this stuff than I am, and so that I can learn from them, and become better at this myself. And let's just keep the investigation going and let the facts go where they lie. Have you looked at all the different ways the UFOs work? The skin is one thing, but what about the way they rotate and glow? All right, so Chris Bounds asked that question. Well, the glowing orb, the glowing that's around it, again, would relate to a plasma field, a vortex, or a plasma ball that's around the craft. And it could be these, a type of nonlinearity production process from the vacuum. Again, we're like this Brett Wheeler process of creating positron electron pairs out of the vacuum, or polaritons, whatever you want to call them, in this polarizable vacuum medium, where you polarize space. But what about the way that they rotate and glow? So there's different types, there's different types of propulsion. There's all different types of propulsions that we've covered, and each one kind of has a different look to how that they would operate. But about that the way that they rotate. So Dr. Paul Hill did a lot of this analysis for NASA, and he wrote books on physical. He recorded UFO cases where there were physical characteristics described, and he paid close attention to the physical characteristics that were described, and the versus the credibility of the cases versus all that other stuff, to try and come up with some detailed information. So one of the interesting things is the way that wobble, and that people report. It's been a stereotypical or classical this wobble, or a coin on an edge. So if you spin around a coin on a table, where only one point of the coin is touching the table at a time, and it's spinning, where it's almost flat. It kind of almost makes that kind of a motion, which is definitely quite strange, and it requires some analysis for what's going on there. And I think that those type of craft that have that type of rotation are the type of the crafts that have that sort of either the mercury plasma or the rotating mercury, or rotating Bose-Einstein condensate or superconductor, right? So those types of things that have those counter rotating discs and or a rotating drum, two counter rotating drums, as described in that Wallace patent, those would be the kind of craft that would have that type of wobbling, or the ones that are similar to that are operating on that principle. Now, what's interesting is that I was looking through all of DeWitt's papers, and he wrote a 1966 paper in May in North Carolina University on superconductors and gravitational drag. Very interesting that, people mention this and talk about this, but superconductors and gravitational drag. I have not read this paper yet, but coming across all these publications, man, this guy might have been on it, man. You know what I mean? This guy, he was onto a stuff that's very eerily similar to a lot of, the Podkletnov and all these other later, more modern anti-gravity experiments and tests. This guy was seemingly on to a lot of this stuff at a time when he shouldn't have been, or when it's too early to have been. But maybe he didn't know as much as he thought. I don't know. We'll have to talk to more people. This is really good stuff, man. This the human intelligence aspect of this, mixed with the the scientific intelligence aspect. This is good stuff, man. Um, Anyways, yeah, I hope that answered your question for the physical characteristics of certain types of craft and versus their propulsion systems. And there's a lot of different types of propulsion systems and stuff too. So you can look up, this research and this stuff in here. Man, like, I just don't understand why this isn't getting more fucking attention. It's like, I've sent people from the news and the media this, and they're just like, silence. There's nothing. I don't understand it, man. Maybe they're just not even. They don't even get the messages. They don't even get the emails. They get like intercepted mid stream by the NSA or whoever, and they just delete them. Like, no, I don't know, man. Maybe I gotta set up some. I feel like printing all this stuff out in a binder, right? Getting all the key stuff printed out into a binder, and then just going to debrief my congressman. Bringing it all down to the state house in Rhode Island and being like, "Look, I'm here from the public to debrief you on, and just give them a debriefing on all this stuff, man. I just wonder what the fuck they would say, if they would even change how they view anything. Guarantee it, half these senators and these people in the government have not heard of this shit. And if everybody went forward and did this and like took my data dump and brought it right to their friggin' senator's office and was like, "Here's the flash drives," or this is like in a couple months when we take this and really sort it and get everything, all the kinks worked out, because yeah, that was a disaster this morning. Not really a disaster, but it was a little bit premature and jumping the gun. But hey, man, you can't fucking blame me for being excited about this. This is fucking epic. If this goes through and what we could do and put together, man. Uh, yes, yes. if you put a curse word in your remark, it automatically holds it, and so that's another way to highlight it, and so we can find your comments better. It's easier to find it through the sea of trolls sometimes. But that's funny. Oh man. Oh, this is good. Yeah, I was starting to fall asleep a little bit, man, when I start talking about some of this stuff and really getting into it, and then I remember this, and I'm like, oh, I gotta talk about that, and I gotta talk about this. Oh yeah, another thing I want to talk about real quick at the end of all this too is people that use VPNs. Um, so there's this site called VPNscam.com, and yeah, VPNs were promoted as this like way to search for secure stuff. It's like, hey, if you want to do secure search, use a VPN, man. Anytime you search for stuff that you don't want the government to see or you don't want people to know about and all your secret stuff, you got to use a VPN. And it was really just like the NSA and the intelligence agencies saying, hey, man, we need a better way to filter out all this information. So we'll sell everyone on VPNs. So they'll just use the VPN for all their secret searches, the stuff that they don't want us to know about. So we'll just look at what they're searching on that to really see what they're up to and collect dirt on them and whatever else. Yeah, so this is one of the diagrams that you can get to, and these diagrams are super helpful. And I think we ought to really construct a lot of these kind of things with once we do the whole Wheeler Battelle and all that. Do a whole layout, something like this would be cool. Already got some people helping me work on that too. But you'll notice proton mail down here. And proton mail, the developer for proton mail, DataSec Holdings Ltd, listed as network for the domain proton mail. So that's the network for proton mail, and it's Database Holdings Ltd, and it's created to NordVPN. They connected all this through their there's more stuff on this if you go on the website, VPN scam and stuff. But basically, like all these people that were using proton mail, I mean, it's just as bad as Gmail. Like, it's just as bad as any of these. They're all like basically like ways for the government to catch whistleblower traps and whatnot, man. It's crazy. So I was thinking about how I would set things up to get, and I don't even want to set anything up to leak. I don't want to leak anything that's not out for public release or anything that violates export control laws on technology or any of these these things in the system that are set up. I don't want to violate any of that stuff, and I want to put information that's already public, stuff that's already out there, and what we're going to provide is analysis and experimentation. That's kind of where we're at, is just, does any of this free energy stuff work? What does work? What doesn't work? And I want to put an organization together to get the information out there, but also provide verification for people so that they don't waste their time and money on stuff that other people have already wasted their time and money trying that didn't work. So, crystal growth stuff, very interesting. Quasi-crystals form in these high-impact scenarios. That's when I was reading some of the history on their origins. But they also form in these space where there's very, very low force on the crystal formation and the crystal structure, which is fascinating. But anyways, I'm gonna coronavirus. I'm going to go hit the hay now, and I will catch you guys later. And thanks for tuning in and being part of this network, and everyone that contacted me and is part of this. We're going to help work on this database and get it really narrowed down and ready, and we're going to keep updating it and keep backing it up with the network of people we have who keep downloading it and backing it up, so that we'll always have an archive of it, and hope, And as soon as it gets taken down or stopped or messed with, we're gonna publish that and let people know about it and document it. And hopefully hopefully we can keep this going, and it can blossom and turn into a good thing, man. Because I could really see this helping a lot of people, save a lot of time, and also get direct access to a lot of the best, really good information. Uh, you know, stuff that you can't. These university students and these engineering students from India have been like. India has been like huge, man. Like the amount of people that have contacted me from India, all these engineering and university students, they're eager to learn this stuff, and none of their professors know anything about it, and they can't teach them anything about it, and they're coming to us. And man, if I really would love to see some people, that some smart people like come together and help us figure this out and really put this together. It's going to take a whole generation to teach the next new generation, all this stuff, and then where to go from here. I feel it's going to take another. I really don't feel like the disclosure is going to go the way any of this is going to go the way anyone out there in the mainstream is predicting or thinking, and these crash scenarios that these people keep talking about. I don't know if these are the real ones, and you know, but what's important is that we do get the information about the technologies out, so that when it does come time to disclose real crashes, if they did occur, that they're not going to pose any threat on the technologies that they contain, because those will be well known to the public in advance, so it's like if everyone already knows about quasi-crystals and metamaterials and polariton condensates and this anti-gravity space field warping effect and everything, then they have nothing to hide, by disclosing it. And that's kind of how things work, is they leak out as small rumors in chat rooms and small YouTube channels like this on the internet first, 5 to 10 years before they get out to the actual public. And we'll see about that, man. Consider yourselves lucky, for being part of this. And I consider myself lucky for having you here to be a part of this. So thank you all for joining in. Thank you all for being here. And please continue to dig into the research and keep sharing information with me so I can share it with my audience. And thank you. Just thank you. I can't thank you guys enough. You guys have been huge and instrumental, and the people that I've met just over the last 2 years and have come together are just some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, and I'm really grateful for all of you, being in my life and being part of it, and being here for this very awesome part of history that we're all witnessing together. Thank you.